Good afternoon, Professor. Good afternoon, Professor.
Yeah, good afternoon. Yeah,
This is G. Rajmohan from NA50.
sure, sure. Yes, sir.
I'll be coordinating with you
Sure, sure.
in this session, sir.
Okay, sure.
So I have a brief of you with me. So I would request you to allow me to talk about, before commencing your talk.
Yeah, maybe you can be very, very short. Don't have to give so
I
much.
hope it is very short, sir.
Yeah, yeah, so, okay.
Okay, okay,
Okay,
okay.
good. Yeah.
Okay, this is a very interesting topic. Many people will be finding it interesting.
Oh, really? Okay, good.
Yes, micro machining. I mean, some kind of trend. People uh,
Okay,
would be interested in listening to.
okay, okay. So
And
I can, huh,
consistently, we have been having more than 300 to 400 participants.
3 to 400.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, so this is like attendees are 53 something, but you have all over India people are watching.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
I see.
Because the time is 3 o'clock, so people are joining slowly.
Okay, okay, okay.
So since yesterday evening, we have been listening. Yesterday we listened to Professor Amitav Ghosh,
Ah,
and this morning we listened to Professor U.S. Dixit. So
uh-huh.
now we are going to listen to you.
Okay, great. I hope I will do the justice.
No,
Hopefully.
sure, sure, sir.
Yeah.
But anyway, it is off the track. I saw your profile. Your PG was from NIT Trichy.
Yes, yes.
Anyway, you are senior to me.
Oh, really?
I did my PG there.
Huh? Oh,
Yeah,
I see.
I think, sir, you completed in 91 and I completed there in 96.
Oh, really? I see. Huh. Oh, so I think I went only once there. After that, I think.
Okay, okay. Who was your guide there, Professor Sachidanandam?
Pro Satyananda was the internal guide, yes, but I did at CMTI Bangalore. So
Okay,
there
okay.
was an external
Right, sir, right. Right.
professor, I'm a person working in CMTI. I see. Hmm.
That's good.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes,
So
sir.
you are from which part of Tamil Nadu?
I am from Kadalur, Kadalur.
Oh, Kadalur. I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
So,
I have a lot of people. I still there. A lot of people know me. I mean, I know a lot of people in REC Trichy, but once or twice only I went in last 20 years after coming out from there.
okay, sir.
Yeah.
Okay,
Hmm.
okay.
Hmm.
Uh, That's good, sir.
So
So,
these people who are most of them are your faculty members, right? Or no?
no, no, sir. No, no.
Oh,
Our
they can
faculty,
come from anywhere.
yes, sir. We have close to about 750 registered participants.
Huh?
And they're joining slowly. Now the count has gone to
Yeah,
about
yeah, I saw
50.
that. I see that it is 85. Oh my God. Uh-huh.
It will go up. So we have, registered about 700 plus, 750 also.
Okay, so I don't know. I mean, how do I go about? Shall I concentrate more on applications of micro machining, or how do we did it, or something like that, so that people understand how did we do?
So something like, we are also trying to venture into advanced
Okay.
manufacturing.
Hmm.
Something that could lead towards
Uh-huh.
advanced manufacturing.
And
So,
people will be able to do it by hands or something, not
possible.
very theoretical. I believe, right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
So you want more hands-on type of the activity.
Right. That will be
Huh.
good.
Okay, I think mostly I have done that way only.
And even
I have just
previous talks I've gone through, people are asking some kind of how to pursue research kind of
exactly,
questions.
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Hmm. So
And
okay,
we,
I
we
will
are
start
also,
from.
yes, sir.
I will start from very fundamental. The day I have, right from the way I have started from the
Right, sir.
beginning.
Right.
So hopefully that should be okay. I think that's what my perception. But I did not know that. participants will be so much and so many and from so many places. Yeah, that I was not knowing. Oh
Right,
my
sir,
God,
right.
this is little
Right. And
scary.
even
Yeah.
now the count has gone to 116. It will go up and up. Okay. Dr. Himanshu,
Good afternoon, sir.
yeah, shall we start?
Yeah, I believe we can start. I request Dr. Raja Mohan sir to please welcome our speaker today, Professor Suhas Joshi sir.
Yeah, I could see our director sir in the background. Good afternoon, director sir. Good afternoon, all the participants and my colleagues. And for this session, a very interesting topic we have on micro machining. And we have one of the eminent person in this domain, Professor S. Joshi, who is the Rahul Bajaj Chair Professor and Dean Alumni and Corporate Relations at IIT Bombay. So, education-wise, he has a BE in Production Engineering from VJTI and ME in Manufacturing Technology from NIT Trichy and PhD from IIT Bombay. And he is working at IIT Bombay from 1999. And he was also head of the department during 2014 to 2017. And apart from IIT Bombay experience, he had short tenures at Tata Motors, assistant manager of engineering at Engineering Research Center. And then he was also postdoctoral research affiliate at Georgia Tech. And he was a visiting faculty, rather visiting professor at the University of Illinois. That was the other experiences outside IIT Bombay. And Professor Joshi's research areas are modeling and machining of difficult to machine materials, modeling and development of micro machining processes. And in fact, for that, he has received a award, Dr. P.K. Patwardhan Technology Development Award. And his professor is also working on laser micro machining, Liga and nano polishing processes. And research projects, as this may not be up to date, sir has to tell that, as I received, took from their website, he has 3 projects ongoing and 18 projects completed and about 10 industrial consultancies and abroad R&D projects of 3. So this, I believe, somewhat reasonable recent records. And then professor has completed 11 and PhDs, and there are 9 ongoing. And he has guided over 105 as of 2008, this data, MTech and dual degree thesis. And professor has publications over 227, and this again goes 2017 records, sir. There must be at least another 20 to 30 to that. And he has book chapters 5. And professor is a recipient of Boys Caste Fellowship from DST India. And he has received Best Faculty Award from IIT Bombay. And he has also got a award, Gandhian Young Technological Innovation Award, for a project that was on rural development related work, some sari cutting machine I saw. That was the thing. And other than that, the honors include like associate editor, regional editor, and editorial board member of prestigious journals. That includes Journal of Manufacturing Science and Engineering, Machining Science and Technology. So a few of process achievement. Now I request Professor Joshi to start his interesting lecture on micro machining.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So thank you, Dr. Rajmohan.
Yeah.
I see Professor Amitabh Ghosh also. So thank you, Professor, for joining the talk. So I will share my screen. That's okay, no?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'll share my screen.
Yes, sir.
So I'll just go directly to this various areas in which my laboratory is working. Um, Dr. Uh, Rajmohan has made some comments, but we are working on micro cutting, micro EDM, micro ECM, laser, and some kind of product developments and micro scale, macro scale machining of difficult to machine materials like composites, titanium, Inconel, and so on. So apart from micro machining, uh, my students are working on macro machining also. So uh, just to give a brief about how I have began in working in micro machining. So when I joined in 1999 in IIT Bombay, it was almost like 2000 towards the end of 99. So uh, I could, I that at those times, the area of micro machining was very, I mean, that word was very famous and people were thinking, oh, there is something called micro machining is coming into, going to be the future technology and something. So I had no machines at that time. So began with modeling of EDM process on a micro scale. When the scale of the process changes to very small, like microscopic scale, what happens to the whole process. So began working on how the spark actually initiates between the two asperities in micro scale. And we found out that there are some small changes which happen during the micro machining process. And we calculated how much is the size, could be the size of the plasma, and then how much of the total the spark power will go to anode and cathode when it happens on a lower scale like micro scale, and when it happens on a larger scale like a larger scale like regular EDM process. So we found that there are certain small differences between the sharing of energy between the anode and cathode, and power which is going to anode and power which is going to cathode, and then we re-evaluated the energy required for a generation of the spark. So these are some of the times in microseconds and how the plasma is actually forming between the anode and cathode in micro EDM. Later on, these were kind of calculated values, but later on, Professor Kunida from Japan has actually used these values, calculated values, to verify his experimental values. He was able to generate a single spark and actually measure the size of the plasma column. And here we found that our model and the experiments, they agree well when the total spark energies are lower, but when the spark energies are very high, then our model was giving larger results over the experimental results. And that was because we have not considered resolidification of the evaporated material. So when the spark forms and the material, a cavity is formed in EDM, after a while, there is a certain amount of resolidification of the metallic wafers, and the actual dimension of the crater formed is smaller than the real than what initially it is. So that's where the larger energies are used. Then it becomes very those differences are much they are larger differences at that point. Um, Similarly, we also at that time there was no understanding of how much deep a hole can be made in a EDM process, and what is the shape of the process, shape of the hole which is made or something like that. So this is we devised a very, I mean, method. I don't say it is great method, but what we did is we had two very polished surfaces, and then we joined those surfaces together firmly, and then we actually made these EDM micro holes in between the two surfaces which are held by some kind of voice. So you can see that here, these are the two surfaces, and this is a very small electrode, about 400 micrometers, and we actually machine at the interface of the two surfaces so that you can open the two surfaces and see how the holes are actually machined. So that is what you can see, that this is these are the surfaces opened like this. So the holes are like holes are made like this, and the surfaces are opened and kept like this. So this is the top half of the hole, and this is the lower half, top half and lower half, like this. So we did a lot of experiments, almost like 20. This was according to that orthogonal array, about 27 experiments, and all of them, you can see that they are exactly at the center, so that the shape of one half is exactly equal to the shape of the another half. And we found that there is a huge length LYD ratio. It is possible, about 10 is easily possible in the microEDM process. Some of the holes which we opened, and when we opened, now we have the access to the holes which were machined, and we can do a lot of things. We can do scanning electron microscopy on the surfaces and see what happens. So you can see that the initial, this is the entry of the hole, and this is the end of the hole. The initial hole is very, very fine, but as you go down and down, you find that there are a lot of particles or debris particles which are actually sticking to the surfaces, like starting from here to here, and this is a further enlarged view. But you can see that there is a very nicely dimpled structure on the surfaces. That means the EDM process is really happening well. But when it goes to the down here towards the tip, you find that this is a completely botched up surface, kind of, in the sense that the sparking and sparking and resparking happens on this. So this is a very close view of the surface, which is at the entry of the hole. You can see that these are the EDM, cavities which are actually formed, or craters which are formed on the surfaces. But in the second part, so towards the end or towards in the middle, you will find that these surfaces get eroded because the debris particles cannot come out from the process, because the hole being very, very small, the debris particle ejection becomes very difficult in that case. And these particles, when they try to come out, they actually get trapped between the electrode and the surface, and they generate different sparks at different places. But yes, though we get a secondary eroded surfaces, but that secondary erosion is very, very prominent at the ends of the electrode. Now what happens is that towards the, like when you go down inside, like here, towards the tip of the electrode, these debris particles actually eat away the electrode itself, because of the sparking process which happens in the process. So you can see that here the electrode shape has become kind of tapered, and that tapered shape is indication of that the electrode itself is eaten by the the process. Instead of electrode wearing the surface, it is the surface which is eating the electrode. But all otherwise, you can say that up to two-thirds of the hole is very nicely machined, very nice dimpled surfaces on them, and LYD ratios of the order of 10 can be very easily achieved in the EDM process without providing any kind of extra force or mechanism for removal of the debris during the EDM process. We also did a lot of microstructural understanding, like measurement of micro hardnesses in these directions, in the lateral directions along these holes, here. And we also checked the compositions at various places. And we can see now is that the conclusion wise, we can say that the whole surfaces are fairly less damaged. I would say that. This schematic actually tells you what exactly it is. So if you take a regular EDM process, then you will find that there is a damaged zone from this point to this point. So you have a hard layer, then there is a soft layer, and then there is a bulk material. So you have a excessively damaged surface on the EDM process. But in case of micro EDM process, we hardly found any this kind of the white layer, and we found that it is just a small reduction in the hardness near the whole wall. So if this is the wall of the hole, there is a small reduction in the hardness. So well, we took machining parameters which required each hole to be timed to be very large, and that actually was sometimes some people say that okay, you used more time, so you have got the no white layers in that, and we got only small annealed zone around the holes. Uh, but uh, uh, but I think even there is a small bending of the grains along the whole surfaces, and that is primarily because of the polishing. Otherwise, we don't find much difference in these holes. That's what we found that. So while this experimentation, by then I think we had those small machines for performing EDM operations. We also went on to do modeling of wire EDM process. Like, so now we have made one spark in single spark. Now we have made that the series of sparks around a wire. If that happens, then what is the material removal rate, and so on and so forth. So this is the model of the wire EDM process, and it also was published in one of the early journals at that time, one of the journals at that time. So one of the important aspects here is that how you graduate from a single spark model. So we have initially a single spark model which talks about only the single cavity. How do you take those cavities and put it and multiply it on the surface? When you multiply it on the surface, is every spark having the equal amount of energy? Is every spark where every spark is going to be positioned? How spatial distribution of the sparks is, and all those things come into picture. So from single spark to multi-spark, it's a big process. Even now, last month, one of my student has finished PhD in EDM, but he has developed a model of the multi-sparks happening on the surfaces at random time durations and at locations where the interelectrode gaps are smaller. So, if you have surfaces having asperities, up and down surface asperities, when the two surfaces come together, wherever the asperities are closer, that's the first point at which the spark begins. Then this happens, then the next asperities are the ones which are closer. So there the spark. But the sparks are not of equal energy at all the places. So again, that problem comes. So we did a small analysis, some assumptions at that time, but we have now fairly good idea about how the distribution of the sparks, what is the distribution of the energy. And now we have also developed a software which gives you, so you run the EDM process for a certain duration under certain parameters, and you get a certain surface. We also can run the software, and we also get a certain theoretical surface, and we can compare these two surfaces, and we come very fairly close to that by doing certain assumptions, saying that this energy distribution will follow something, a spatial distribution of the sparks is something, and so on and so forth. But this was much long ago, in 2009, about 10 years ago. At that time, another important process which was being considered for micro machining was micro electrochemical grinding process. And this is also a very interesting process, and primarily it is used for very fine applications like dental implants. And so the process is something like this, that this is the grinding wheel, and this grinding wheel is a conducting kind of a grinding wheel, and there is electrolyte flow, and which generates a hydroxide layer on the surface. So we say that this is the insulating kind of a layer, and these abrasive particles actually abrade that insulating layer during the grinding process and expose the new surface to the flow of electrolytes so that the electrolysis process can happen. And we also find that in this process, this gap being very small and flow of electrolyte being velocities of surfaces being very large, there are some kind of turbulence which is created, which also generates some kind of layer on the surfaces, and it helps in it generates actually basically it generates a shearing stresses on the surface, and it helps remove that oxide hydroxide layer formed and expose the new surface. So we end up developing a small setup. This is a grinding wheel which is inside enclosed inside, and this is a workpiece which has the small projecting out. You can see now that this is grinding wheel here. There is a small cavity here, rectangular cavity through which you can pass the work surface, and then the grinding will happen because this electrolyte being corrosive, you will find it very difficult to manage it. Otherwise, the whole entire thing will get corroded. So this is a interesting process where you can, using this, we could develop the small grooves on the surfaces. At the same time, we did model the very small interelectrode gap, and what happens in this interelectrode gap, what are the velocities of at the two boundaries, and how much stresses these boundaries are applying on the surfaces. So this was the another effort which we did. So you can see that there is a this is a velocity versus the distance interelectrode gap. So you can see that here the velocities are higher in this case in the towards the wheel, and on the workpiece side also the velocities are higher, and they create some kind of shearing stresses, and this is the magnitude of the shearing stresses which is maximum at the 90 degrees. Uh, so what another thing which we did was, we at that time we got those very small mini dynamometers came into market. They were very costly, but we were fortunate to have able to buy through them through some of the funding, and we try to measure the forces which are coming on to the during the grinding process, and try to calculate the shearing forces through the measured shear stresses applied in this region, and the downward forces which are measured using the dynamometers. And we got a reasonable approval, but it's not that accurate. But yes, definitely we could get in the same range, at least that the forces and the shearing stresses and forces are in the similar range. Similarly, this again, apart from these processes, the micro laser was becoming another. Laser had become very important tool at that time. So some of the students were working on laser manufacturing also. So we had a laser system available. I'm not sure whether this will work, but may not work yet. So laser system available. So what it does is that we focus the laser on a mask, and the mask has all kinds of holes, whatever we want, something like this, the holes, and the beam passes through the mask. Now, the laser beam has several small beams. The image of the beam can be reduced in size, and after reducing in size, it can be incident on a workpiece surface. So now I can have a mask with 100 holes, and the mask can be larger, but those 100 holes image can now be reduced. And then I can put it on a surface like this is one image. At that point, I do some pulsing, then go to the next stage, next step somewhere here, or here, and like this, it is a 3 to 4 millimeter place. It's a very small space, 3 to 4 millimeter place, because I can now reduce the image. I can make it very small image. If I have 100 micron holes on the mask, I can make those holes of 25 micron, or I can make those holes of 15 micrometers if I have a 1/5 or 1/8 or 1/4 reduction in the optical reduction. And then your mask making becomes simpler because I can make the mask which is bigger, and I can reduce the image of the mask to a smaller extent. And so now I can now take these whole, I can go to one position, move the table, and perforate the whole surface. Though it's again it was a very tedious process, but we could make the mask with 200 micrometer holes, 150 micrometers, and 100 micrometers, and then we could actually make the polymeric surfaces. What we call it as the filters, that microfilters, with some kind of spacing, 25 micrometers, 18 micrometers, and 14 micrometers. So very, very small. 14 micrometer hole is very small, and we could make it using 100 micrometer mask because that reduction in the beams was possible. So you can see that even 25 micrometer holes are fairly smaller, fairly uniform in size. So the smallest holes we could make here. And then we could make with the help of, like it can be put into a device, and you can measure the pressure drop across the microfilters. And one of my colleague, Amit Agrawal, was involved from that point of view in this particular work. And we had certain, what is the pressure drop across the microfilters, and we could get a fairly reasonable results at that point. And one minute, just further. Okay, I think I have dropped a slide because this okay, fine. Okay, so we could get some kind of reasonable estimate of the pressure drop across the such filters. But we could make, I'm not able to get the number, but I think 16,000 holes were made in 3 to 4 mm size. We made about 16,000 holes in that small size using the lasers. So of course it was a polymeric plate. Also, similarly, the efforts at that time were towards the help holding the micro objects. So can we have some micro grippers to hold the micro objects? And that's where another dimension, another set of people were working. How do we design micro grippers which can give you very small force, which apply very small force on micro components so that the components do not break. So after a lot of iterations, we have these kind of joints, and these we designed this kind of a gripper, planar gripper, and this was actually something like this, that if you apply a force here, and then these grippers close. So if you apply a force from the backward here at this end, then the grippers actually close. So though this looks a very elementary kind of a structure, but it's a very interesting thing, because this whole gripper was manufactured, and then these two pipes were introduced. So these pipes are nothing but these are like cardboard small pipes. The whole gripper is of not more than 50 millimeter by 20 millimeter. So it's even smaller than that. I'm kind of forgetting. Yeah, even smaller than that. So the interesting result is here that the two concentric cylinders which are there, that inside one has a spring. So what we can do now is that when the jaws come inside, they only apply a force which is enough for holding that particular, suppose you have a hair or nail or a simple glass plate or a hair in it. And that much only the force is applied. It doesn't apply now the more force, because now you have a spring in between the two concentric cylinders, and that spring is pre-calibrated. So we can now have these blue dots are nothing but the camera. These are supposed to be the bands which can be visible from the top camera. And now you can see the displacement of the springs and calculate the force which it is applying to hold a hair, to hold a thread, a nail, or a glass plate. You can see now that the force required for holding is 43 millinewton, 60 to 102, and 159 kind of. So it applies only the force which is, it applies the force which is required, only what is required for that particular object and not more than that. So that is where this gripper is very important. And this boy has went on to do PhD at University of Berkeley. Now he's faculty at some place. Parallelly, we were also doing a lot of collaboration with Bhabha Atomic Research Center, and a lot of components we were manufacturing that was going on up to 2015 or so. And where these are some of the components, like this is a nano delivery pin, where a 40 micrometer slot is carved inside a pin, so that when the pin goes into DNA liquid, by the capillary action, it absorbs a small amount of liquid. And when it touches the nascent surface, it releases a small fraction of that. And that small fraction is a nanoliter, something like that. So there are many ways by which we actually fabricated these pins. These are micro exchanger plates. Not plates, but it's actually 100 micrometer thick, 100 micrometer foil. And out of that, 40 micrometers we removed, and 60 micrometer we removed, and we kept 40 micrometer over there, so that these act as the coolant passages for coolant passages. So these grooves, though they look pretty dirty, but these are like 60 micrometer deep, and a small cutter was actually designed to make these grooves, a peripheral milling cutter. So this is another component where we have a very, very fine electrode of about 60 micrometer. And this was machined by turning initially, and that 60 micrometer was electrode was in situ used to make the holes of 60 micrometer size on a foil. So so once the electrode is done, we don't go to turning operation, but we just go to EDM operation and we perform the EDM. So this is again a spiral groove, which is another kind of component which has, sorry. These are very, very fine kind of grooves made by EDM process to give a differential pressure. So these are spherical grooves, and when they rotate, they create a differential pressure across these grooves. And these are some of the initial textured surfaces by lasers, but we did a lot of things later on. So from here, I'm going to, we have been doing for different work, but this is some textured surfaces manufacturing using EDA, using the micro machining processes. So these are some of the like textures which are there on the wings of cicada. So these are like sharp peaks which are there on the surfaces of cicada. And when the bacteria fall on it, the bacteria actually pierce in them and they die. Whereas here it is primarily for, these are the globular kind of structures, multi-scale structures, like smaller globule, but larger globules at the bottom and smaller on the top of it and smaller on the hairs on the top of it, like multi-scale structures. and which are good for self-cleaning kind of properties. So variety of structures are required for variety of places in bearing industries, drag reduction, anti-fouling, protein biology, or anti-icing on the wings of the aircraft. So some kind of structures are required such that the ice flakes they do not stick to the surfaces of the wings and they just fly off from their positions. So otherwise, the ice which is falling on the wings of aircraft, parked aircraft, actually it causes a lot of increase in the load. So these are some of the examples. So going in that particular direction, we have developed another process which is called as reverse micro-EDM. Um, so what is done here is that we know that EDM process, we actually use the electrodes and we actually make the holes on the surfaces. But in reverse EDM, what we do is that we take a plain electrode, we take a plain workpiece, and we take an electrode which has holes, and we try to penetrate the electrode inside workpiece inside the electrode. So you can get these kinds of projections on this. So this is a simple perforated plate which is having some holes. Now no EDM action occurs on this side. EDM action only occurs here, here, and these corners. So you can, after some time, you can you can make these kinds of rods on it. So like this, we were initially kind of thrilled to get such kind of very fine rods. But later on, we did some organized experiments and we found that yes, rods of various sizes can be made, and if the holes can be of any shape, you can have the rods of that particular shape. So after the initial kind of experimental setup, we did another addition here. We found that what happens is that during the electrodes, the rods which come out and up and down process, the debris which get accumulated around the holes, they stick to the rods, and they keep on eroding the rods. So the rods formed in softer metals are not very straight, and they have a lot of constrictions and uneven surfaces. So we came out with the idea that why don't we provide some kind of a vibration motion to the table itself. So when this vibration motion is provided, that these, something like these debris particles, they actually get away from the whole process. So the situation is something like this, that this is all these whole things being very, very small. What we did is we just put a electromagnetic actuator at the bottom of the table itself, and we gave very low frequency vibrations to the table itself, and that has helped release these debris particles which are getting entrapped between the holes. And now we could make the very long rods. We could make the, and without the much wear on the electrode also. So sometimes what happens is that the electrodes holes get worn out and they get become larger. So that's also another problem. So this is another experimental setup work done by my PhD student, where large rods of very large sizes. So you can see here is an ultrasonic actuator, but actually these frequencies are lower. And with the help of this actuator, we could do a lot of difference in making a variety of structures. So for example, this is a 8 millimeter diameter titanium rod, and you can see these kinds of structures which are formed from here to here. So of course, these are orderly structures, and but the process has a lot of capabilities. We have later on explored it for uneven surfaces and very flexible electrodes. Flexible electrodes, and as long as they don't contact the surfaces and short circuit, this process can work. But we could get, you can see now this is a rod which is having these kinds of projections, and the pillar sizes are, height is about 170 microns, width is 25 microns, and gap between them is 75 microns. So they're fairly close by kind of pillars. Of course, they are now dependent on how well you can make the holes in the in the electrode itself. So of course we did contact angle measurement here. So on a flat surface, it flies off, and the droplet is flat. Whereas in this surface, you find that the droplet is sitting. It has a very low contact angle, so about 114 degrees compared to 52 on this flat surfaces. Uh, this is again another thing. The first exploration it was where somebody wanted that can you do it by laser. So this is the enlarged view of laser, but this is one line of laser, and this is the another line of laser, and this is actually the pillar which is formed. So each pillar which is formed here is nothing but these these are the pillars, and you have laser lines from one another to other side. So these are very early experiments, but these globules of the materials on the pillars, they were actually helpful, and the contact angle was 123 degrees here in case of laser surface. In EDM surface it is 114, and flat surface is 52 degrees. So then again, we continued and we tried to explore what are the longest lengths and straight dimensions you can make using EDM process. So these are some of the fine rods which we could get on this is tungsten copper plate, 80 micrometer and 200 micrometer, very high aspect ratio structures. These are again some examples of very high aspect ratio structures. So the smallest rod which we could get is using 25 micrometer size, about 744 micrometer length. So it's like a very high aspect ratio. But you can see that the rods which are behind, they don't survive the whole life. Only one of the 4 rods actually survived. Because as I said, no, these are small rods, small debris particles actually eats away the work material itself. So this is another example of using lithography kind of the operation, and where we have done the on the etching, and we made some kind of textures, but we had 4 different kinds of textures in 4 different uh, quadrants of a silicon wafer, and then we put a PDMS on it so that you can pass the fluid on this side and you can take out the fluid on this side, so that these structures are at the bottom of these microchannels, and you can pass a fluid and you can measure the drag in this case. So this is actually a sample which is made after these microchannels at various places were built on a silicon wafer. And then these are some of the inlet, and there is an outlet tube here. This is actually the experimental setup. Again, my good friend, whenever fluidics comes into picture, Professor Amit Agrawal is the part of it. And we measured the pressure drops, and again, we have a reasonable agreement with the pressure drops measurement. And one of the things is that this is a cover page article in this journal of micro nano man MEMS and lithography. More recently, we have been working on texturing of cutting tools. So these are some of the diagrams of the textures which are made. So these are like dimples like textures. These are like grooves on the surfaces, and this a dimple and this grooves on it. So what happens is that we know that during the cutting operation, when the chip flows on the face of the tool, you have 2 different zones, sticking and sliding, and the pressure and the velocity conditions at both these zones are very different, and you cannot have a single kind of texture in both the zones. So we actually experimented with the different kinds of textures, longer grooves in the sticking zone on the tool, and dimples in the Am I audible, or I got, I think, momentarily disconnected?
Yeah, yes, sir, yes, sir.
No, no, we can hear you.
We can. I'm audible, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
No
now we are.
problem. We can hear you.
Because I think
Subhash,
for
no problem.
yeah. Okay. So I'll continue. So the chips also show a very interesting pattern when we use textured surfaces. So for example, initially you had the heavy segmentations under very high feeds, and those heavy segmentations actually reduce significantly. To some extent, I think they become sort of a continuous kind of chip. So these are like back surfaces. These are the side surfaces of the chips. So the back surface is very, yes.
We are able to view your slides. Are you sharing the slides?
Yes, I am sharing the slides. Okay.
Maybe because of disconnection.
I'll do that once more. Okay. Sharing screen has gone, I think.
Yes, sir, it is clear now.
Okay, fine. I think from here we lost the connection, I believe. So we got a lot of advantage by providing these kinds of grooves on the surfaces, and the friction coefficients, cutting forces, they all reduced by about 18 to 30% reduction was evident in these using the texture tools. Also, the chips I was mentioning, I had not shown probably this particular slide. The chips were highly segmented without the textures, but the same chips with the textures the segmentation becomes very, very small, less prominent. And, in this case, I think they almost look like a continuous kinds of chips are formed. Also, the under surfaces of the chip, the back surfaces of the chip are pretty smoother here when the textured tools are used as compared to the non-textured ones. This is a very recent work done partly at our place and partly at University of Birmingham. So again, we are going from micro texturing to nano texturing in these cases. So we use the femtosecond lasers, and we provide some kind of patterns on the surfaces, and zigzag patterns on the surfaces, and overlapping patterns on the surfaces, and you get some kind of the laser induced surfaces and the multi-scale surfaces. So you have, once you move the laser on the surface, you have certain nanometric features on the surfaces. But when you actually overlap the laser beams once or twice or thrice or 4 times, then you have surfaces which are the main features are microscopic, and on those main features there are nanoscopic surfaces features. So we call those as multi-scale surfaces. So you can see that these are the LIPS surfaces, laser-induced surface textures, periodic surface structures. These are called as LIPS. And then these are on a stainless steel, like these are made on stainless steel, and then they are replicated on the polymers, and then on those surfaces, you can do a lot of testing on the replicated surfaces. So their sizes are pretty small. Then here, these are like multi-scale surfaces. So for example, you have these kinds of scales on the surfaces, and on the top of it, there are again scales on the micro scale, nanoscopic scales on the surfaces. So these are like having one shape, and on the top of it, there is another superimposed shape. So these are recently done. All these are sort of nanoscopic kind of surfaces. So some kind of bacterial test, and how the bacteria remain, or how many bacteria remain on the surfaces, or they get washed away during the process, that is actually tested here. The LIPS kind of surfaces, and then multi-scale surfaces. And then we induce some kind of fluids in between the surfaces, so that the drag on the surface or the anti-fouling properties of the surfaces improve further. So using some kind of fluids inside these cavities, it improves their anti-fouling nature. So I will stop here. If I hope I am in time, and maybe I'll stop here at this point, and I will ask questions for your time for the discussion.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Now there is one question that is there in the screen.
Okay.
What is the accuracy of EDM? The erosion rate for calculating EDM time, for total costing and planning, estimating, machining time. So that is a question. What is the accuracy of EDM? Erosion rate for calculating EDM, time and tool costing and planning, estimating, machining time.
So if you look at these kinds of sort of holes which are made, yeah, these are like kind of experimental thing, and they really took something between, like at the lower parametric levels, they took anything between 6 hours to couple of hours. At some places it is couple of hours, but yes, right now these are like kind of 8-10 years old experiments, but now we have much better kind of EDM operations. So we have much faster micro machining rates comparatively now. I'll not be able to give exact figures, but yeah, I think they are easily available in various literature. But if you are talking about based on this, then these are very early results in the micro machining domain. Accuracies are pretty good now. I think we can say that 1 micron in micro EDM, 1 micron and lower accuracies are possible now. So here also, I have not presented the data of exact dimensions of this, but yeah, here about 20 micron accuracies, but later on, I think we improved the accuracies. Now about 1 micron and half micron can be definitely achievable in the micro EDM process. Yeah.
Yes, sir. That was the only question.
Okay.
From my side, at least I can ask you something, sir.
Sure. Yeah.
Actually, I have something to do from the metrology side.
Okay.
Sir, you did not talk anything about the geometry of these features that you have made.
Geometry of?
The surfaces, like, the whole features, the geometry part,
Yeah,
you did not deal about.
Yeah,
and
actually,
with the textured surfaces, the finish was not talked about.
So in the texture surfaces, the finish is not important. Finish is not required. We want some kind of textures which will do some kind of function. So it is these are the functional surfaces where the finish is not required, but it is the size of those features. Say, for example, here the hole sizes are of 14, 18, or 25 micrometer each hole in that 3 to 4 millimeter size, microfilter which is there. So suppose if you take here, the sizes are like 40 micrometer size, and over the entire length of say 10 millimeter over length of 10 millimeter, 40 micrometer size over length. Here the width of the cutter is 400 micrometers, and the 400 micrometers and 60 micrometer depth. This dimension is something like 60 micrometer rod made from a 3 millimeter rod initially by turning. And then we use in situ to make these holes of 70 holes of 60 micrometers. And the EDM process we use to make all those 70 holes. And what we say is that the difference in the first hole and the 70th hole should not be more than 1 micrometer. So diameter should be 60 micrometer, and first and last hole should not have the circularity error more than 1 micrometer. So that means that when you make the first hole to the 70th hole, that your electrode wear should be zero, almost like zero, or it should not be more than half a micron or something like that. So you have to optimize the EDM conditions. Once you make this small electrode of 60 micrometers, you have to optimize the process parameters. You make the parameter gentler in such a way that from first hole to 70 last hole, the error in the dimension should not be there. It should remain almost the same. So whereas surfaces are different, like if you say texture surfaces, you cannot measure the surface finish here. You have to just have a different measure altogether. Here we have to measure the sizes of the pillars or shapes of those shapes and dimensions of the pillars which are getting formed.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So it depends.
There is a question from Dr. Nilanjan Rai.
Yes.
Can any statistical analysis with 3-point data that is based on Taguchi-based design provide a proper scientific conclusion during nanosecond pulsed laser beam machining?
Nanosecond pulse link measuring, and he wants to know 3 level experiment, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. What normally we do is that we first do a screening kind of experiment. See, if you say that if you do one experiment and you reach to a final conclusions, that's not the right thing to do. What we should do is first we do a screening type of experiment. We call them as low resolution experiment, where the levels of experiments are less and the number of parameters are more. So you take large number of parameters, but you space the levels between the parameters widely. So you cover the larger area of experimental zone, and there you find which parameters actually influence the whole process. Then you take a subset of those parameters, and now you say you had initially 6 parameters, then you take 3 parameters, then you increase the levels of 3 parameters from 2 to 3, and you do a refined experiment. Okay. So again, when you do a refined experiment, you don't stop at doing one experiment, say you use L8 kind of array or L9 kind of array, but you repeat the experiment at least once, at least once you repeat the experiment and check that the data which you are getting is accurate nearby or not, or you check whether there is a repeatability in the results which you are getting. If you do all that, then what happens is during the presentation in the paper, you will probably present only the final experiment, and all people will feel that those who are seeing that particular paper will feel that, oh, this guy has only done 3 level experiment, ho gaya, chalo, I can do that. But that's not the way. He would have done replication, he would have done prior experimentation, some rough experimentation before actually coming to the zone. So initial feasibility, then screening, and then final experiment, modeling experiment. We call this as modeling experiment. So what normally you see in the paper is the modeling experiment, but it is actually the last step. And prior to that, there are at least 2 or 3 levels of experiment which we do not see. Sometimes authors mention the brief summary of it, but many times you find that they only take the most important results from the final experiment and present that. And that's where we all feel that, oh, only 3 level experiment ho gaya, then everything is done. But that's not really the case. There is a lot of background work which has to be done.
Definitely, sir, to fix the range of parameters.
Yes, to fix the range of parameters. Prior to screening itself, you have to do rough experiments.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So there is another question, sir.
It was a nice presentation, but I have one question.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Basically, we are doing a non-contact type of machining here.
Yes.
But still there will be some forces on the cutting tool itself, maybe a back attack on the plasma. So how we are managing the strength of the cutting tool at such a small size?
Okay, so now what happens is these tools which you are using, how they are. It depends on how they are drawn their heat treatment. So if they can be very long and they can be very stiff. So normally there are no mechanical forces which are coming onto the tool unless the tool is rotating, or if the tool is stationary. So in our case, micro EDM process, we were rotating the tool. Tool was rotating during all those processes. So there is definitely going to be a mechanical force which is acting on it. But if you keep if the shallow holes are there, you don't have to rotate the tool. And if you don't have to rotate the tool, no mechanical forces will come. So you can use the regular electrodes. But the drawn wires are sometimes very, what we can say, thin, and they are not very stiff. And then you will find it very difficult. So you have to use slightly stiffer wires as the electrodes. You take little harder materials like molybdenum or tungsten, and these wires are little stronger comparatively than a copper or something in micro domains.
Yes, sir. There is another question.
Yes.
Do the simple and debris creates, dimple and debris create any micro defects in the material? Do the dimple and debris create any micro defects in the material?
Sorry.
Whether the dimple and debris create any micro defects, sir? That is a question.
Yes. So naturally, I mean, when you texture the surfaces, we have to bear in mind that you are also doing a machining process. But when you use a non-contact kind of process, then the chances of damaging the surface are less. But in mechanical damage is less because there is no contact between the surfaces. But in that case, thermal damage is always possible, because thermal damage is because of the heat which is generated. But there also you can change the thermal damage influence by changing the pulse structure. Normally we have a rectangular pulse structure during on time and no energy in the off time. So we say that the current is high, it goes, and then it becomes zero. It's kind of a rectangular structure. But in EDM, what we do is that we start not directly upward, but we start something like this. We start diagonally, and as the spark on time goes higher and higher, towards the end of the on time, you have maximum power. You don't have maximum power over the entire on time. And that actually makes these sparks softer as compared to those rectangular sparks. So in the on time, if you have a rectangular spark, then for the entire time duration, you have maximum power. But if I have a triangular spark, my power goes on increasing, and it is only maximum at the end of the spark, and then for a very short duration, and then it comes down. So the amount of energy you give is less, and that actually helps you to remove a small amount of material and more delicately, and at the same time you get the desired effect. So you may take little more time, but you damage less on the surfaces. So any thermal or mechanical action will have a damage on the surface, but our efforts are to minimize that damage on the surfaces. So EDM processes, you can change the shape of the pulse so that the damage is actually minimized. Is that okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I have another question from my side.
Yes. Yeah.
Like you are showing, pattern of holes.
Pattern of holes. Yeah.
You are doing it in sequence one after the other.
Which pattern of holes you are seeing?
You said there was some 70 holes on a.
Yeah. One moment.
I think it was.
Yeah. It is a sequential. Yeah.
Sir, can it be done parallel? Like you can have a number of holes drilled simultaneously. Will it be possible?
So what happens is, now if you have a very thin sheet, And if you're trying to drill in it, the sheet will bend and you will not be able to drill it. So it will be almost like piercing the holes, you know. When a foil of 100 micrometers is there, very thin foil of 100 micrometers, if you are trying to drill, it will actually pierce the hole, it will not drill. So you have to do EDM operation there, so that there is no mechanical force on it and there is no burr. Burr will be there, but very, very minor EDM burrs will be there. But I think they are almost not there. Whereas once you pierce it, you will find that the uncut material is there on the back side of the hole, and that uncut material is nothing but the burr. So on the thin foils, you cannot drill. You have to EDM. You cannot drill it because the sheets will bend and you don't have any
True,
way.
sir. True. Actually, sir, I'm asking like even EDM, can we have multiple electrodes in one go?
Yeah, so if you can make these kinds of electrodes, multiple electrodes, so then that is what we try to do, is that through a reverse EDM, we actually generate multiple electrodes on the, now we generate an array of electrodes, and these array of electrodes can be used for making the holes. Yes, that is possible. Yes, that is possible.
Yes, sir.
That is possible. Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. There are two more questions, sir. How accurately can we biomimic, since in nature it is not a reductive process? This has come from one Kumar Satyam.
Yes. So he's right. We are trying to do something against the nature. What he means is that, so nature has the generative processes.
Yes.
So the nature generates from one side, and it's like, you know, it evolves from the bottom to up. So here like bottom up kind of process, and we are actually going top down, that is the top to down. Yes. So there is a difficulty in these cases. So there are generative processes. It is not that there are not generative processes, but with the lasers, it is now possible that a large scale surfaces can be textured, as I was shown in the last few slides, that you can have kind of scanning. Once you scan, the second scan can be half the diameter or half diameter, and the next can be very close by. By doing that large scale scanning, you can scan the entire large surfaces, and then the texturing can be done. So the reductive processes are tedious, but with the lasers, I think they are becoming more and more easier, and you can spread them over longer surface areas. That is one advantage with these kinds of processes.
Thank you, sir. There is one more, I think, last question.
Yeah.
Can this pillar, I don't know which pillar he is referring to.
Okay.
Can this pillar use a micro tool for ultrasonic machining for generating micro patterns in ceramic materials?
Can this pillar
use a micro tool for ultrasonic machining?
Yes.
For generating micro patterns in ceramic materials.
See the ultrasonic machining has a problem in the sense that, yes, they use a soft horn, and then the abrasive particles are there in between them. So the abrasive particles between the surfaces and ceramics, they actually vibrate, and they itch the surfaces. So it is possible, but it is possible. I mean, technically it is possible. I can say yes.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir. I think that was the last question, sir.
Yeah.
So
Any other question?
There are no more questions.
Okay.
In the
so we finished much early, I think, relatively early. I think,
yes, sir, it was scheduled up to 4:30.
Okay, 4:10 only.
Yeah, it is done.
Yeah.
And thank you very much, sir, for your valuable time.
Sure.
And it has been very interesting lecture. Instead of starting for defining micro machining, we went into the research aspects of it. I'm sure that the panelists as well as the attendees must have found it very useful.
Yeah.
And as I said in the beginning, we are looking forward to setting up advanced manufacturing facility here.
Yes.
Where certainly we will be looking forward to micro machining.
Sure, sure.
and we will knock your door, sir.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your
Thank you
valuable
very
time,
much.
sir.
Yeah. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
And for the attendees, I think the next session will be by Professor P.K. Mishra. That is going to be a non-traditional machining. And I'm not sure, I'm not having the schedule right now. There is a break, sufficient break. You join after the break.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Rajmohan and Himanshu. And please convey my thanks to Professor Ghosh and Professor Chattopadhyay.
Yes, sir. They were all there. I mean,
They are all there somewhere. Huh?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
They are all there in the panelist.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you, sir. Have a good
Bye.
day.
Okay, thank you, Rajamohan sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Bye.
Now for the attendees, the next lecture is by Professor P.K. Mishra on non-traditional processes, and this lecture will start from 5 p.m.
Okay.
So I request everyone to be on time. So we will start this lecture at 5 p.m.